Welcome all. This is chapter 3rd, the selfish giant, and today I'm going to explain passage number 2 to you. So here we go. Trespassers will be prosecuted. He was a very selfish giant. So the giant put up a notice board, and the notice board said trespassers will be prosecuted. That is, the people entering the garden illegally without permission would be prosecuted, would be punished. And so what is said here, he was a very selfish giant. He was selfish, he was self-centered. He thought only of his own happiness and not of those children. The poor children had nowhere to play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was very dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. So now the poor children were left with no option. They had no other field there, no other garden there where they could go after the school and spend some time there happily. So now they had nowhere to play, nowhere to go and play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was dusty and was full of hard stones. It was dusty road, and the road was full of hard stones, so they posed threat, they posed risks to the boys, the children, as they might cause injury to them. Earlier, when they played in the garden area, that is the surface, the ground was very soft, the grass was very soft there, so they had become used to playing on the surface, on such surface, or playing in the garden. And here they were hurt when they tried to play on the road, so they didn't like it. They used to wander around the high walls when their lessons were over and talk about the beautiful garden inside. So when the lessons, that is when the school got over, since they missed the garden so much and they had no other place to go and play, so they would go around this garden, that is from outside. They would go around the garden from outside the wall, and they would talk to themselves, among themselves. They would talk about the garden, the beautiful garden, and how they loved, enjoyed playing there, how happy we were there, how happy they were there when they used to play. They said to each other, they expressed their thoughts, they expressed their views as how happy they were when they used to play there. Then the spring came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. And then came spring. It was now the season of spring, and spring season means lots of flowers and blooming of blooms on trees and plants. So all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. There were blossoms, there were flowers everywhere throughout the country, and the little birds also would come to those flowers. They would chirp, they would fly, they would fly about the tree and the plants. Only in the garden of the selfish giant it was still winter, but in the giant's garden it was still winter. The birds did not care to sing in it, as there were no children. Okay, so even the birds thought it quite dull to sing there, since there were no children, and without children everything looked quite unpleasant, boring, and dull, and so they didn't care to sing there. And the trees forgot to blossom, and even the trees forgot to blossom, to bring forth the flowers, buds, and the flowers. That is, even they forgot that they need now to come out with flowers and fruits. Even they had forgotten those things. Once a beautiful flower put its head out from the grass. But when it saw the notice board, it was so sorry for the children that it slipped back into the ground again and went off to sleep. And once a beautiful flower, a beautiful flower once tried to come out of the grass, thought of just looking around. So the beautiful flower lifted its head out of the grass and looked about the garden, but the moment it found the notice board there, which restricted children from entering the garden, it was very upset. It was so upset, so so depressed, disappointed with the notice that it slipped back into the ground. It just went back into the ground and there went to sleep. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost, and only the two people. That is, here the author has personified, has given the human qualities to the things of nature. So here the seasons, spring and here the frost and snow, these have been given the human qualities, and that's why it said the only people who were pleased were the snow and frost, and that's why he calls them people. So only people who were pleased were the frost and snow. Only these two were happy there in the garden. Spring has forgotten this garden, they cried. So we will live here all the year round. Now, they shouted, frost and snow, they shouted to each other and said, well, spring has forgotten this garden. That is, spring is not coming to this garden, and so it means that we can stay here throughout the year. The snow covered up the grass with her great white cloth, and the frost painted all the tree silver. And now they covered the entire garden, tree and everything with this frost and snow. Trees become silvery. Why? Because of this frost. Frost means some kind of, you can say, solid ice, which is crystal in you can say appearance. Crystal, that is see-through, like kind of thing. So they cover the entire garden now. Then they invited the north wind to stay with them, and then they invited north wind that blows during winter to come and stay there with them, because north wind is also a friend, a companion of these two. And he came there, he reached there. He was wrapped in furs, and he rode all day about the garden. He was wrapped, he was covered in fur, that is, you can say, the long hair, you can say. And He rode all day about the garden, and then he rode all day about the garden. Throughout the day, he just kept on blowing through the garden and blew the chimney pots down, and then he blew the chimney pots down. He knocked down the chimney. "This is a delightful spot," he said, and he shouted that this is a delightful, a very pleasant place. "We must ask Hale on a visit." And then he suggested, Northwind suggested that we may ask, or we must ask the Hale to pay us a visit. So the Hale came. So, as per the request, the Hale also appeared there. Every day, for 3 hours, he rattled on the roof of the castle till he broke most of the slates, and then he ran round and round the garden as fast as he could go. And then he came, and every day he rattled the roof of the castle for 3 hours. For 3 hours, the Hale would lash all the garden and also the castle tiles, castle slates. And then after that, ran round and round the garden as fast as he could go. And then he ran all round the garden as fast as he could go. He was dressed in grey, and his breath was like ice. He was dressed in grey, color was grey, and his breath was like ice, and his breath was the air that he released was like ice, very cold. So this is all for now. Thank you.